He's playing Death and Taxes.
Taxes, yeah. Now, if you're unfamiliar, it's the mono white deck.
Right, I know. Because sometimes in Goblins, the names do nothing to describe what you're actually doing. Yes, it's a mono white deck. A lot of 4-ofs. So our 4-ofs, I'll just kind of read them off to you. Thalia, Stoneforge Mystic, Mother of Runes, Sarah Avenger,
Nice.
Flicker Wisp, Phyrexian Revoker, and he has 3 Mangara of Corondor. And those work very well with the full playset of Karakas in his deck.
Definitely. 4 Aether Vial, 4 Swords to Plowshares, and of course 1-ofs of a few equipment.
Right.
Now, he's going to be playing against John Helt, who's playing Goblins. This is probably not a good matchup for Thomas, because any kind of Goblins deck usually eats apart the other creature decks. And John, playing a pretty standard list, 4 of all the usual Goblins, Matron, Ringleader, War Chief, Lackey. Yeah, and these players are X-0 right now. They have no losses, 3-0. John Helt, full 4 Jump Palm Incinerator. That's going to be tough for Thomas.
Yeah, Goblins, I always love, and I say this every time I do a Star City Open, the mono-red aggro deck has the best card advantage of any deck in the format.
Oh yeah, definitely.
So planes off top from Enevoldsen. John starts on Aether Vial, which is one of the Goblins' most explosive starts.
Yeah, that's the start that Thomas wishes he could have right here. And it looks like he kept a hand that would be great against non-basics, great against decks planning on using their lands, but against an Aether Vial, not so much.
Yeah. So he's going to play Stoneforge Mystic. His options are sort of Fire and Ice, Batterspell, and Umasawa's Jite. I think at this point it's a very safe bet that his opponent's on Goblins. Not many things go Mountain into Aether Vial. I'm pretty sure he'll go for sort of Fire and Ice. Thomas, by the way, is on a 6-card hand.
Okay. So
he's going to opt for Batterskull.
Wow. So I think any 3 of those, I think any of his 3 would have been fine. Yeah, Batterskull, SoFi, or the Jite. I think it really depends also how many creatures he has in his hand. If he doesn't have any creatures, the Jite or the Sword, pretty risky.
Right. So John Helt takes the Aether Vial up to 1, draws for turn. So the biggest thing is that John's deck, with a lot of tutoring capability, what answer has he been? Is he packing for artifacts?
Well, he has 1 Tuk Scrapper.
All right.
Now, Tuk Scrapper, that's the one that kills based on the number of allies you control.
It kills the artifact, deals damage based on number of allies.
Always kills the artifact, deals damage based on allies. So, 4 mana guy. That's his only artifact answer. He has no 10th Street Hooligan, anything like that. He's actually just a complete mono-red deck. He has no non-red spells that he's planning on casting.
No, yeah, there used to play, there was the 1-2 that blew up artifacts, but he's largely gone out of play since Tuk Scrapper, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Mog War Marshal, the turn 2 play for John, and he's going to make Goblin Lackey off the Aether Vial.
Okay, interesting main phase vial there.
Yep. That's interesting. So both of them with Rishadan ports. I don't know how much they'll be porting each other. Thomas has to watch out for port a lot more than John does. John has the Aether Vial, so he'd be content getting into a port war.
Yeah, for sure. And wow, Thomas draws a Phyrexian Revoker, and that's going to be good against that Aether Vial.
Definitely.
When one player has one and one player doesn't in a creature mirror, it's usually pretty brutal. Right now he has to decide between Batterskull and denying John the Aether Vial. Now, with either one of those, you will be able to wasteland. Right. Not even sure if he'll want to do that. He has a lot of land, but
I think if he revokes the Vial, I would be all for wasteland.
Yeah, definitely. And
I think that's actually the line I like, is to revoke the Vial and wasteland.
Yeah, I like that, because then he can't pay Echo for the War Marshal if he was intending on doing that. He has to lose that. He has a 1/2 blocker for all of John's creatures, and John is set back to a singular mountain.
So now the worry would be if John has another land and a Jump Palm Incinerator, that line is very dangerous.
Right. So he just decides on planes, probably to play around that Incinerator.
Right. So at this point, he is committed to the Batterskull.
Yes.
So turn 2 to Aether Vial Text up to 2 for John Helt. And because he's drawn the card, okay, nope, he's not paying for it, it's dead.
Yeah, he probably didn't want to pay for that anyway.
It's unlikely. John, because of the mana advantage he's getting off the Aether Vial, is really going to want to be the aggressor in this matchup.
Yeah. It's hard to spend 2 mana just to get a marginal advantage. 1 extra 1/1, usually not really worth it.
Well, the biggest thing is that John, correct me if I'm wrong, John has the ability to flood the board. And that's something that Thomas will have a lot of trouble with.
Definitely. Unless, of course, that Batterskull sticks around. Now, he only has access to the 1 Tuk Scrapper, so if the Batterskull is blown up, then all the other equipment will have free reign.
So it seems like, so tell me, so you know a bit about Death and Taxes, I mean?
A little bit.
Okay, so Sarah Avenger is a card that's currently in M13 and sees no play in Standard. What is it about the card that makes it good enough for Legacy, but not good enough for Standard?
Well, it's the fact that you can Aether Vial it in, first of all, and also that even on turn 4, when you can first start playing the Avenger, the mana bases are still so tight at that point. 2 mana is still usually almost the most you're going to have, sometimes 3, so mana's still tough. Just like Tarmogoyf, you know, you could play a different creature other than Tarmogoyf in Legacy, but 2 mana is still a lot.
So what you're saying is that you wouldn't want to, in Standard, it'll get trumped by a 4-drop.
Right.
But in Legacy, no one has time for a 4-drop.
Exactly. People can't play 4-drops in Legacy. Not a lot of them anyway.
Phyrexian, so catching you up on the action, Batterskull swung, stole 4 life from John, total is 24-16, and now Phyrexian Revoker coming down for Tomas Enevoldsen. It would be Tomas, not Thomas.
He's pretty Americanized, so
okay, so we'll go with Thomas.
Yeah, I'd just say Thomas.
All right.
Probably the way most people pronounce it. So.
Okay, and a second Revoker coming down.
Interesting.
We'll find out what that one names. We're not positive on that guy.
Yep, we're asking the table judge right now.
First one's on Aether Vial, and Thomas writing it out, actually, putting little notes in on the guys.
And the second is
Gem Palm Incinerator.
Nice.
Really good blind call for him. That's the card that's going to wreck him. And what that does is it really protects the Aether Vial one. Now it's just the Tuk Tuk Scrapper or Matron into Scrapper that he has to worry about.
Right, and the Scrapper definitely going to have better targets, like that Batterskull.
Yeah, I really like how Thomas is playing this game.
Yeah. He just wants to ride his Batterskull to victory, playing it pretty cautiously, never going to let the Lackey get a hit in. All he really has to worry about now is a chain of ringleaders.
Yeah, so what's more interesting is that these Revokers are really just pithing needles right now. I don't think that Thomas can really afford them to get into combat. He doesn't need to because of the Batterskull, but even if that, you know, I would say that if the Batterskull is dealt with, yeah, those aren't really attackers or blockers in any situation.
Right. Oh, wow.
And Thomas might be kicking himself that he has one on Incinerator. Now Krenko Mob Boss comes down. Krenko will have haste due to Goblin War Chief. That's very relevant.
Yeah, you know, one Krenko in John Helt's deck, he's drawn it, and yeah, that's going to be a big problem for Thomas.
He can maybe survive one tap, but he's going to have an answer on this untap, or this will be the game.
Right.
Some of the more Krenko, one of the more recent additions to Goblins. I think it's one of the more exciting additions. You get to really neat lines with it, especially ones that involve Goblin Pile Driver.
Yeah.
Pile Driver, like Krenko haste, tap make Goblins haste, Pile Driver haste, swing 20. There's really a lot of like explosiveness between this and then the 8 Lords in the deck.
Right, just out of nowhere.
Right. So John Helt is going to Wasteland during upkeep. I think he didn't realize that he was going to do it. So now he's going to give Thomas the chance to actually use the mana.
Wow.
He's Wastelanding a Rishan Import. Sword of Fire and Ice comes into play. Thomas actually did not have another. Oh, he did have another land, so maybe it's not so bad.
Actually, I'm not sure that was a legal play. I don't think you can float from your upkeep to your draw step anymore. So his plane should probably be tapped.
Well, did he draw the Sword of Fire and Ice?
I think so. We'll find out for you.
I'm not sure.
Either way, it's not going to affect the board state. Sword of Fire and Ice deals 2.
And here come some blockers. So Batterskull, lifelinking for 6. Now does the sword deals the 2, so the sword damage is not life-linked.
That's
Correct.
right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Now, did he deal 2 to John Helt's face?
I think he has to. I'm not sure what else. Yeah. So he's swinging. That would mean for 8. That puts John Helt goes from 16 to. I think our life totals are. We'll get an update on life totals. I believe Helt is at 8.
Yeah, that sounds a lot
which means
better
he would
than
be
24.
dead on the next swing.
Yeah, I'm pretty surprised he didn't take out the War Chief.
Says that. Well, no. He wants a 2-turn clock here.
Right.
You know, this next swing is lethal. He can't kill the Krenko and he can't race the Krenko.
That's true too. He's just all in on this Batterskull Sword of Fire and Ice creature here.
Right. Activating Krenko, making 1, 2, 3, 4, 10. 10 more goblins.
Wow.
There'll be 15 in play and they will all have haste.
Yep. Batterskull, though, is a beast. That'll be able to block and effectively negate 6, 7 goblin tokens.
Unless he drops, Orcish or a Flam or something like that. Yep. The wasteland was activated during the draw step.
Interesting.
As it turns out.
Interesting
He
timing
saw him
on that.
drawing the card and was like, whoa, 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 wait, I forgot to do this. It's like, well, if you're doing it during the draw step, then that means I actually do have this option to, you know, use the mana.
So John Helt, 15 Goblin tokens.
Sure.
Actually, 17 Goblin tokens in play now. All of them have haste.
17. Yep.
Wow. That is... So this is turn
Not
5.
enough, yeah.
And 17 Goblin tokens in play.
It's just 17 goblins is just not enough.
No, not even close to enough, actually.
Swinging. All right. And he's going to block the Goblin War Chief with the Germ token. So he's set to take 17, but he'll be gaining 6, so only taking 11. Thomas Enevoldsen. All right. Thank you. So we've been mispronouncing his name. Twitter helped out. So Thomas Enevoldsen.
Enevoldsen. I think you have to pronounce it low.
Enevoldsen. All right. Excellent. Okay, he's actually so he's the Germ token. Once you confirmed, I think the attacks are a little unclear, so they confirmed it was attacking, and Thomas decided to block the Goblin Lackey.
Yep. Playing it safe here, doesn't want any siege gangs in, you know, coming into play unexpectedly, anything like that.
Right.
Any sharpshooters.
I would say the thing you're most worried about is something, like a Tuk Scrapper here, because maybe John doesn't have the mana to cast it.
Exactly.
No, he does.
Maybe he puts a ringleader into play and then
but
flips into a Tuk Scrapper or something like that. Definitely the heads up block there.
yeah, and John does have, as we see, does have the Gem Bomb Incinerator.
Wow. So those were just really key Phyrexian Revokers from
Now,
Thomas.
if he has that, I don't know if post-combating it, remember, all his creatures have haste. I don't think it's enough to kill Thomas at all, but...
No, I don't think so.
So Thomas has the lethal swing on the Germ token, and he steals game 1.
Wow, I can't believe he won that game off that Krenko. Krenko tap make 5 has haste, tap make 10.
We had a question, how did John Helt cast Krenko last turn if he used the Wasteland on Thomas's turn? And he has only 3 lands this turn.
Well, the Goblin War Chief makes it cost only 3.
Right.
So, there you go. The War Chief haste and cost 1 less.
Right.
Now, John Helt, I'm actually seeing on Twitter, he's a local game store owner. Maybe we can get a little more info on that, because I'd love to promote his store.
Yeah,
here.
what store does he work at? Let us know. We'll mention him on Twitter.
Yeah, for sure.
On the show.
So, looking at the sideboard here, John Helt has the 4th Pile Driver, 4 Pyrokinesis, Chalice of the Void, 2 of those, 4 Red Elemental Blast, 1 Relic of Progenitus, and 3 Fairy Macabre.
Right.
So out of these 15 cards, what do you think we'll see here?
Pyrokinesis. That to me seems like it. Thomas's deck is full of a lot of smaller creatures. It's white, so and a lot of times he's using Aetherbile or tricks on his own creatures. Pyrokinesis will be a total blowout.
Right. Now, if you're not familiar with the Pyrokinesis, it's a free spell. It's a pitch spell in the same cycle as Force of Will.
Yeah, I said it has good company.
Yeah, it definitely does. Not quite the same, you know, not quite in the league of like Scars of the Veteran, that kind of thing, but it deals 4 however you choose among their creatures. Instant, too.
Yeah. Goblin Pile Driver, possibly? Probable, actually.
Yeah, he's not really that great in the creature matchups. But really, it's hard to trim anything from this Goblin deck because it's already set up so well to be creature decks here. Certainly not going to take out Incinerators, Sting Scourgers, Siege Gangs, Sharpshooters, Matrons, Ringleaders, War Marshals. These are all great. Maybe something like, I don't know. That's tough. He doesn't have much to side out.
Yeah. On Thomas's side, so his sideboard, a lot of it is hate for specific combo decks. You know, he has 3 Aethersworn Canonists. That'd be Aethersworn Canonist. 3 Relic of Progenitus. None of those will come in. He has a Pithing Needle. Probably not as good as the Revokers he has main deck. I like he has a Lan Bola in the deck.
Wow. A Dark Steel throwback.
Yeah, Lan Bola. So is he trying to tap Emrakul's with it? Okay.
That probably makes sense.
I think that's my guess is where that's boarded in. So he has 2 Gut Shots. That's something I actually might want to board in against the Goblin player. It does stop the Lackey. So on the draw, I might like... I think on the draw I might like something like a Gut Shot, but otherwise his main deck seems pretty much what he'll be doing.
Yeah, he seems pretty well set up as it is. He might bring in the 1 Pithing Needle just because John has so many great activated abilities. He's probably especially scared after seeing that Krenko.
Yeah.
Fiend Hunter maybe.
At the same part, a lot of John's cards have to be preemptively Pithing Needles, which is, that's I think the difficult part, you know, like you have to throw down a Pithing Needle and name Gem Palm Incinerator, and you have to, you know, if Krenko, with all the things that give his goblins haste, you have to name Krenko in the dark too, and with those cards, if you don't know that you're actually getting a card from them, they become much worse.
Definitely, definitely, especially one that doesn't have a body attached to it like the Revoker.
So John is keeping, and I will give shout out to John for using red sleeves on his goblins deck. I'm a fan.
Burn him.
Thomas is going down to 6.
Thomas on 6, John on 7. Now, you know what, actually, looking at John's deck a little bit more and thinking about this matchup, I actually think I like taking Goblin Pile Driver out here. I think that card in particular is just, it's really not at its strongest against a deck like Thomas's, which has, let's see, 24, 28, 31 creatures in it, plus Batterskull. In a matchup where creatures are going to be trading a lot, it's just, a lot of times it's not what you really want to do. So it looks like we have an update here. Jerry Thompson, is that right?
Yep.
Jerry Thompson 2-0 over Adam Prozac.
Both of them have decided to run Dredge in this event. So they had the ever entertaining Dredge Mirror.
Wow. We should have had that one on camera, the Dredge Mirror. We would have probably gotten to this one pretty quickly. Oh, and so basically what it appears happened, Adam Prozac had the ley lines, Jerry Thompson didn't, but Jerry won that match. Wow, so Jerry Thompson defeats Leyline of the Voids from Adam Prozac. That must have taken some doing. Maybe he attacked him to death with Stinkweed Imps. We'll get the story from Jerry later. We'll be sure to tell you what happened.
Yeah. So Goblins, so kind of just amusing on Legacy. One of the things I really like about Goblins is that I always think, you know, I always have like the idea that in Legacy you can you don't have to follow an ever-changing metagame. And I like the idea that lots of Goblins players, you know, they bought their Goblins deck, they built it 7 years ago, then 7 years later they heard there was a tournament in their city, showed up with their Goblins deck, and then they top 8 the event.
Right.
There's so few decks that actually can do that. And granted, you know, there have been a couple changes, there have been some changes in the deck over the years, like the core set Lord, Goblin Chieftain started to get added. Krenko we're seeing more and more.
Sure,
but
Tuk Tuk Scrapper's a marginal upgrade.
The marginal upgrade was the Goblin Vandal, I think, that used to see play.
Yeah, some played that. Some played Tin Street Hooligan.
Right. So I mean, they've always had a one-of that blows up artifacts.
Right.
But really, I like this idea that, you know, this deck has been in the format forever.
Exactly, it's a pillar. Even if it's a small pillar and a not very well represented pillar, it's still a pillar.
So Thomas is on 5. His hand has 2 lands and a Stoneforge Mystic. I can't imagine he's shipping it.
No, definitely. It doesn't matter if the other 2 cards are jokers. Who knows?
Unfortunately, on the draw, he does not have an answer to this lackey, and yeah. You can tell by his hand extension.
Instantly
brace yourself.
Yep.
This could be ugly.
Oh, wow.
And with the port. All right. Goblin Lackey's going to swing. John will probably not even use his mana this game.
Probably not. He won't have to. Goblin Lackey is such a good card, lets you cheat on so much mana over the course of the game.
Yeah. And he's going to put Krenko into play. Yep, that's turn to Krenko. Designed for turn 2.
Yep. That seems pretty fair.
Yeah.
So we're getting word on Twitter that John owns Illuminati cards in Cincinnati. Well, in the Cincinnati area, Westchester and Amelia.
Nice. So, wow, Thomas Enevoldsen gets ported in his upkeep, drops Caracas to bounce the Krenko.
Perfect. He's not out of it yet.
Krenko doesn't have haste, so Thomas dodges bullets right there.
And that's the advantage of playing Caracas. Sometimes you randomly get wins over decks like this, or Emrakul decks.
You have a second Goblin Lackey and a Skurk Prospector. So maybe John will have to cast things the fair way. We'll see. Wow. Thomas drops to 18 off a second Lackey. Krenko might have to rejoin the party. I mean, I'm sure it will get bounced.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, there he is again. Krenko, so powerful that he's legendary.
You know, despite this really good draw from John Helt, he really can't capitalize it.
When you look at Tom's hand, he has a Swords to Plowshares, he has an Umezawa's Jite. He's in this on the Molda 5.
He really is. He's about to cast the Stoneforge Mystic here, search up a Batterskull, and have Caracas.
Yeah. Well, he may get Batterskull. He may, and we know that John has a Gem Palm Incinerator. He may try to go for the Sword. The Sword can actually eat cards very well out of. I mean, all his cards have two or less toughness.
Right. I think we'll see him go for Batterskull here, just because he already has 3 lands in play.
Yeah.
It'll be easy to hardcast if the Mystic gets Incinerated.
He doesn't have another creature on top of that.
Right.
All right, and then that Caracas is going to have to be on Krenko duty. Yep, bounce. Bounces Krenko.
That's perfect.
All right. Well, the little squire that could.
Yep, old school meets new school.
Can it? I mean, I think it's going to have to get gem palmed here.
Oh, definitely. The squire alone, even if it had no text, it would get gem palmed.
Right. Yep, there it goes. John Helt drawing a card, dealing, and he's going to slowly chip away with 1/1s. But Enevoldsen holding his own.
Yeah, you know, I really would have liked John Helt to play better if he didn't play the Skirk Prospector last turn, instead tapped a Plains on upkeep. But this way he does get in more damage.
Yep, and let's see, does he have 2 goblins to put down? It may be that actually this parade of 1/1s is too much for Thomas to deal with. Krenko and Goblin Chieftain.
Oh, wow.
Okay, now that gives them all haste, correct?
Goblin Chieftain,
yes. So that's going to be pretty much a game over here. Yes, the other Goblin's creatures get haste.
Krenko is active. Batterskull is going to be 1 turn too slow here. He has the swords, so John Helt will only get 4 Goblin tokens.
So guys, if the end step activates Krenko, excellent. So now in response, Thomas will will swords the Chieftain.
And also bounce
Krenko.
Yes.
So only 3 1/1s.
3 Goblin tokens. There we go.
That's still, because Thomas, the bigger problem is whether or not Thomas will wait to cast Batterskull on 6. I don't think he can afford to. I think he has to drop Batterskull and allow for a Krenko activation. Well, I don't know. That's very close. I think he has to do it and allow for a Krenko activation. Just hope that Batterskull doesn't die.
Yeah, I'm not sure John Helt's going to give him the opportunity with that Rishadan port. He's got to be almost out of spells here.
Right. Well, Thomas putting up a fight. Still an uphill battle, unfortunately.
Yeah, more of a fight than I expected, seeing this draw from John Helt. So Aether Vial, a little late to the party, but that's okay.
Swing for 6 from Helt. We'll drop Enevoldsen down to 9.
Death of 1,000 goblins.
Krenko Mob Boss, and is the other card in his hand a Goblin?
I think it's a Sting Scourger, which he should not drop. No real reason to do that. Should definitely save that for any potential germ tokens that might come his way.
And he's and Thomas,
very nice.
Great play, end step, porting the port, wants to get his Batterskull down.
Play right out of Mercadian Mass Block constructed.
So the danger here, and I think he's going to, is that if it is a Sting Scourger, Thomas is going to be dead to that.
Oh, wow. Thomas draws another Swords.
The question would be whether he wants to Swords the Krenko here or make a Batterskull.
Yeah, you know, it all depends what he thinks John Helt's last card is, because John Helt didn't think about using that Lackey to put something into play. Now, Thomas has to think, well, what wouldn't he put into play there? Right. Maybe a Tuk-Tuk Scrapper.
The bigger problem is that even if that Sting Scourger's face up, so now pretend Enevoldsen knows it's a Sting Scourger. Does he have a play here?
Jeez.
I don't think he does.
I'm not sure. Probably not. He doesn't have anything else to do really. He can Swords and drop GT, but that doesn't do much.
Right. Well, if he drops Batterskull, it gets Sting Scourgered and he dies. Because he dies to actually just a swing from Krenko as a Hill Giant.
Thank you, Kellen Hooper on Twitter. The Chieftain is exiled. We'll make sure that happens. No players have any way to interact.
There's no graveyard effects here, so we're safe. But that is still correct.
A GRV.
Yep.
Game rules violation.
So he opts not to make, and he's not to make the Batterskull. Also does not make the GT.
Yeah, he must be planning on swordsing plus porting here.
So, well, yeah, he swords plus port. Because he's going to try to play on 6, play the Batterskull on 6 so he can continue to bounce. Yeah, he's going to port the port on upkeep. Yep. Sure.
And looks like John Helt has a land in hand. Land Sting Scourger, I believe, is his hand. Thomas, yeah, just getting beat down by these 1/1s. I don't think he's been dealt any damage that hasn't been from a 1/1 yet this game.
Right. Well, if you take 21 damage from 1/1s, you auto lose the game. So.
Is that like the EDH general rule?
Right. Yeah, it's the 1/1s rule.
Yeah.
Alright, 6 damage coming in from John Helt. As Enevoldsen can use the swords to destroy one. Unfortunately, that doesn't gain him any turns, so I don't see the reason to do it.
Nope, he doesn't.
He'll go to 3. Lackey triggers coming on the stack, 2 of them. Alright, resolving first one is going to be Krenko.
Of course.
Cat Krenko has been lagging into play a few times.
He gets around.
And it's going to be swords. Oh, the Prospector is going to be... First he's going to swords the Prospector.
Okay, and John should just take the 1 life here. No real reason to sacrifice that.
Yep. And he's going to untap and continue to play.
Yep, so now he has Caracas.
Alright, and beating up Caracas, making the Batterskull token. That Sting Scourger is going to get him, though. Bounce Krenko. Pass the turn. Going to dare John Helt to have a card.
Incinerator would do it. Sting Scourger would do it. Tuk Tuk Scrapper would do it. Matron would do it. There are a lot of cards here that really just seal the game for John.
I do believe he has a Sting Scourger. We haven't... Yep.
There it is.
Yep, there you go.
Thomas packs it in. He knows he's dead.
Yep, and I think from when we said it a few turns ago that he was probably just dead to the Sting Scourger. It played out according to that. I don't think it's the way Thomas actually can play around that.
No, Thomas would have had to draw something pretty special there. Maybe something like, even like a Thalia, just to stem the bleeding a few turns before that might have done it.
Yeah, Thalia is really powerful because Thalia could get John to, either gets John to burn a Sting Scourger, which would be or will eat away the Goblin tokens, both of which are pretty good outcomes, and actually it would eat away at the 2 lackeys and eventually stop the Krenko from being made.
Yeah, exactly. First Strike, a very relevant ability in Legacy.
Right. Well, anything that lets a 2-drop creature kill another 2-drop creature is pretty relevant. Yeah, the swords gets the Prospector in that situation, so that Thomas gets the life to gain.
Right. So players don't look like they're really re-sideboarding. Everyone playing games with each other, and you know they really, both of them don't have many sideboard cards for this matchup. Their main deck's mostly set to fight against Combo and Blue, which well, John Helt has 4 Red Elemental Blast. He has 2 Chalice of the Void, Relic of Progenitus, Fairy Macabre. So those right there, he's really taking a stance. He says, I don't want to lose to Blue Combo. In fact, I don't want to lose to Combo, period. His only concession to creatures, Pyrokinesis. Thomas, on the other hand, on the play, will he do anything differently on the play?
Well, I mean, he doesn't have too many options as far as his sideboard is concerned. We talked about the fact that he does have 2 gut shots available in his sideboard. Nothing else in his sideboard is particularly relevant here. He has a Fiend Hunter, but once again, that's really more for different stuff, for
show and tell decks.
For show and tell decks. Like, you know, show and tell a Fiend Hunter into play. The last thing you'd want to do is Fiend Hunter hunt a card with a come into play ability against Goblins, which most of their relevant cards do.
Right.
Thomas just has to make sure his strongest thing is going to come in the hand he draws and evaluating the role that his hand has. So Thomas keeping a 7, John Helt down to 6.
So in Thomas's sideboard, he has 2 Cataclysm, and talk about a blast from the past. We'll get that one up on screen for you because no shame in not knowing what that one does from Exodus.
Typically, you'll see it played in cubes.
Yeah,
is where you'll see this one.
It's like a poor man's Armageddon.
Right.
But even a poor man's Armageddon sometimes is exactly what a cube deck needs.
Thomas, after round 4, 6 wins will typically get someone into the top 8. Curious question. So yeah, Cataclysm destroys everything. Everybody gets to keep 1 artifact, 1 creature, 1 enchantment, 1 land. It's especially beneficial for Thomas because he plays almost all those types of cards, so it can be oftentimes a one-sided Armageddon.
Exactly. Keep a land, keep an Aether Vial, keep a big creature.
Mother of Runes, turn 1 for Thomas, Cavern of Souls for John, naming Goblin, and we have a Lackey facing off.
So both players have great openings here.
Yep. Caracas is the draw for Enevoldsen. He opted, interestingly enough, for the turn 1 Mother of Runes over the turn 1 Aether Vial. He's going to Wasteland the Cavern of Souls. I think he's playing defense against the Lackey draws, and now by Wastelanding there, he doesn't have to worry about Gempalm Incinerator either.
Right. Exactly. So he has a reprieve from the Lackey this turn. John has no way except Pyrokinesis to get rid of that here.
Yeah, he could Pyrokinesis to force it to tap, and then swing with Lackey.
Right, but even if he has the Pyrokinesis here, which it doesn't look like he does, I would save it. It can probably do more work later in the game. It doesn't look like it.
Okay. Thomas, a little heavy on land right now. It's going to have to watch out here. That he's going to have to make sure that he plays the game in such a way that he gives himself time to draw this part of the deck he needs to draw.
Right.
He has lands, but the Ether Vial he has actually will do well enough to cast almost all the cards he has. So at this point, you know, he really doesn't want any more lands.
Right, and there's a Revoker.
He'll pull out Gem Palm.
Gem Palm, of course. He has an Aether Vial. He doesn't want to name that, and Gem Palm is by far the most likely card for John Helt to have here.
Yeah. John taps. Second land from John Helt. Nothing. Thomas Enevoldsen draws Swords to Plowshares. Good draw. Not a threat, but a good draw. He had the Revoker is going to attack. Obviously, a block can't happen here from John.
Right. Now, if John does block and Thomas activates the Mother of Runes, a Pyrokinesis would be pretty good, but John doesn't have one of those yet.
At this point, it's pretty safe to assume there is no Pyrokinesis in John's hand.
Right.
So third land from John, would probably imagine that John has kept a hand which it doesn't have a great curve, but has, you know, good 3s and 4s, which is where goblins, the meat of goblins is at. So he's gonna matron.
Exactly. Any Lackey hand really has the potential to just be blown out if the Lackey can be stopped.
Right, he's gonna go for Ringleader, most like Ringleader, Sharpshooter here, all good options. Sharpshooter actually can be blanked by Mother of Runes, and the problem is it won't untap very easily. He's gonna go for it anyway.
Yeah, it's a really risky choice. The really conventional safe choice here would be to just go fetch a Ringleader, which will likely find another Matron, another Ringleader, maybe the Sharpshooter itself. But he'll go for the Sharpshooter, and it'll definitely be Swords when it enters play.
Yeah, possibly he makes this choice if he doesn't have a fourth land, but no, he does have a fourth land.
Yeah, I definitely would have grabbed a Ringleader there. Start your chain going.
Mainly because Thomas isn't doing much to push the tempo of the game. Card advantage should be able to bury him.
Right.
But now the end step Sarah Avenger from Thomas. Remember, Sarah Avenger costing 2 can be put into play at any turn via an Ether Vial. And Horizon Canopy from the draw from Thomas, it's sacrificed and cycled into yet another land.
So he has 5 lands. That's the most he'll ever need, and only Batterskull at that. So he would love to draw some business here. The good news for him, though, is he doesn't play many land.
All right, so recognizing kind of the frailty of his advantage here, he's going to swing both.
Right, almost daring John to have a way to kill the Mother of Runes.
Yeah, he can't afford to play. He can't really afford to play safe here. He knows that his hand is the worst. That if all their cards and hands get played, he'll be behind.
Right.
And Tuk Tuk Scrapper is in John's hand. The Scrapper can go at the Revoker or the Ether Vial, neither of which is too appealing.
Now, if it goes at the Revoker, the Mother of Runes will stop that. If it goes at the Ether Vial, I mean, it's already done its work. Right. It's not really smart. John should just slam the Sharpshooter here. Hope Thomas has nothing. But, oh I thought that was a scoop.
He's going for Tuk Tuk Scrapper. He's targeting the Revoker. That will get protection from red.
Yep. Oh, John Helt. Oh, yep, that works. Didn't really realize that. Thought that the Tuk Tuk Scrapper would happen anyway.
Right. Sometimes you can get confused on those things because artifacts are colorless and you think, oh, Mother of Runes is colorless, this won't work. Wait, no, it does. And you read it and you're like, well, I don't know what I was thinking. Of course this does work.
Right, exactly. John Helt just has a little brain fart moment there. But he's pretty far behind in this game anyway. This is going to be very tough for him to win.
Right.
Especially if Thomas ever draws a Mangara or a Stoneforge Mystic, any equipment. He's definitely on the back foot
At this point, it may be safe for John to start chump blocking the Revoker.
Yeah, for sure.
Forcing Thomas then to use the Mother of Runes aggressively.
Yep. So
if I were John here, I would start chump blocking on the Revoker. Force the Mother of Runes to tap.
Right. And
he does not. He goes down to 8.
Especially if he draws a Pyrokinesis too.
Right. Well, I mean, the Pyrokinesis is going to be great no matter what happens here. Thomas is going to try to not use the swords because he's really concerned with life total.
Right. He wants to save that for something like a Siege Gang Commander. He wants to save that for the Sharpshooter.
Or preferably never cast it.
Sure. He would obviously prefer to win with it in his hand, but...
The problem is with 8, he's on a 2-turn clock. Once from a Sarah Avenger and then once with a pushed Mother of Runes swing.
Right. Yeah, John Helt had to chump block last turn.
Alright, Goblin Ringleader. John's... And leaving Wasteland up, so we have Pile Driver, Gem Palm, Pile Driver, Gem Palm, 2 lands.
Yep, 2 blanks, a 2-1 for 3 and a 1-2 for 2, and you know, this is a big reason why you have to side Pile Driver out, because it's only good when you're aggressive, and you can't always be assured to be aggressive against another creature deck.
Right. No plays Thomas, just needs a way to kill Sarah Avenger.
Yeah, John not going to have many turns to find it. I think one more draw step. And he's thinking about an attack, it looks like. That won't do much. I'm not really sure why he didn't play Sharpshooter there.
Right, well, the reason he wants to play a card like Sharpshooter is Sharpshooter, if he'd played Sharpshooter before Scrapper, he could have overloaded Mother of Runes.
Right.
And then he would have gotten the Revoker, and then all the Gem Palm Incinerators would have gone crazy, because I believe he has 2 in his hand now.
Yeah, he does. He really needs to get rid of that Revoker.
Right, well, the problem is he doesn't have too many things that get rid of the Revoker, and I'm not even sure in his deck that he has enough to make that work anymore. You know, he was really that combination of Scrapper Pile Driver, or Scrapper Sharpshooter that was going to do it.
Right. And John Helt uses his Wasteland on the port. On the end step, doesn't want to get ported, figures it'll be the same end result if he uses the Wasteland.
And that's pretty fair.
Yep, Thomas definitely would have used it.
John Helt down to 5. He's facing a lethal swing next turn. He's going to play Goblin Sharpshooter, but it doesn't have haste. With only 1 red up, Thomas isn't going to be scared of anything. What, Tarfire? That would be the card.
Worst case scenario, Tarfire.
But I mean, Thomas can be pretty sure there's not a Tarfire in his hand.
Right.
Another Evoker down. He may put this one on Sharpshooter.
Probably Sharpshooter. Yeah.
Or it'd be Sharpshooter or Gem Palm.
Could be. Could be a little insurance there. I think that's an S. I think that's Sharpshooter.
Right, well, either way, I believe that he's just dead.
I think so too. We'll see if he goes for the risky play. I don't see why he wouldn't.
At 1 red, it seems not to be very risky.
And if he hasn't been playing around Pyrokinesis before, unlikely John Helt would have drawn it now. Would have had to draw it in 1 or 2 draw phases.
It looks like he's figuring it out. He kind of gave a little shrug of, you know, well, I don't see any reason not to.
He would love to find one, though, because it would be awful to be blown out by
And he's actually just making the safe
Wow.
play. I don't think I like that as much. I mean, I guess there's not much. It gives John a chance to draw Pyrokinesis.
Yeah, I mean, we have the advantage of knowing John Helt's hand. Thomas just really can't figure out a way he can lose unless he gets blown out by something unexpected. Something like Tarfire plus Pyrokinesis. It would be baffling if John Helt hadn't played them yet, but
Pyrokinesis by itself, I think, would do it, wouldn't it? No, it would be close. No, it wouldn't. Okay.
He would have to choose. He would have to choose between the Revoker and the Mother of Runes. But the writing's on the wall for John Helt. He should extend the hand pretty soon.
Well, yeah, no, Pyrokinesis would work. Second Revoker's on Sharpshooter. So if he drew it, we're going to go through a theoretical here. He would Pyrokinesis both the Revokers. Obviously, Thomas can't let whichever one he let dies, the other card kills the other Revoker, and then the second Incinerator in John's hand kills the Sarah Avenger.
Right. That's right, too. A Swords to Plowshares, though, could foil that plan.
Yes. He plays Ace Goblin. All right. And Thomas Enevoldsen defeats John Helt 2-1.
Moves on to 4-0.
4-0.
Half the round's done. He has 4 wins locked up. Only needs a couple more.
Yeah, 2 more wins and he should be able to draw into the top 8. Otherwise, he will probably need 3 more wins if he does pick up a loss in these next 2 rounds.
Yep.